Hello. Hi. We're back for another poorly edited video. Today's going to be interesting. As you can see, I've changed up the camera angle. I'm actually at my desk today. Excuse me. That's going to be happening a lot in this. I'm sorry. So if you read the title, you'll know exactly why we are here today. And I'm going to warn you now, I cannot see, so... Oh, that's a good size. Today I'm going to be going through my ideas for a Spider-Man film franchise. Yeah, everyone has their own kind of ideas on how they want to do this, and I'm no different. I've been working on this for a bit. I'm not done, as you'll find out by the end, but this is just my idea. So I do have two notes about this. There were two attempts before this. Attempt one ended due to changing what I wanted, and it wasn't up to my expectations, especially after the first movie. I think what I did there was I tried to have too much happen in the first movie, and then everything spiraled downward for Spider-Man 2. And then I wrote out, so for that I had written out like the first two movies and then like half of Spider-Man 3. Then I wrote out a new plot for Spider-Man 1. Excuse me, for take 2. And that ended because I was basically just rewriting the Raimi trilogy. And I wasn't really confident in the plot. It was just like a sad rethinking of it. So now I'm on take 3. And yes, I have stolen more concepts, but it is more my own ideas than the other two. So okay, I gotta get close so I can see this. I'm blind, by the way. So this is Spider-Man 1. There's no one, but it's Spider-Man Rising Voltage. I'm gonna try and get a a narrator voice going, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Okay, my cat's attacking me. We open on Peter's monologue of how he was a much different person back then. Enter the bullies. Peter's getting bullied, as per usual, when Harry Osborn steps in to help. The bullies, including Flash Thompson, mock Osborn before walking off. Peter displays his superiority complex to Harry when Gwen Stacy comes to check on him. She asks if he's okay, and as the student council president, she has a direct line to the principal. Peter says he's fine and that no action needs to be taken. I probably should preface this. This is just plot summary. I don't have like definitive writing or anything else like planned out. This is just plot, and yeah, you'll see immediately my take on the character. Anything confusing, I'll just define. Superiority complex is something a lot of people don't really know. This is basically just thinking you're better than other people for one reason or another. Peter displays this in the comics. He thinks he's better than everyone because he's smarter, which he is smarter than like most people, and he displays this as well in Turn Off the Dark, the musical that like failed horribly, but I like it. I happen to like it. I didn't watch it in person. I found a recording on YouTube, but picking up. When she walks away, Peter tells Harry about his crush on Gwen and how she could never like someone like him. Harry gives him some encouragement before Mary Jane Watson walks past. Harry fawns over her. Peter quickly pushes him toward the exit to the school. Peter arrives at home and Aunt May and Uncle Ben ask why his glasses are busted. Peter talks about wanting the boys to get their due reward, but Uncle Ben tells him this isn't him. Ben wants him to stop and think and to use his power, his intellect, responsibly, not killing people. I don't know why I wrote that in here. Peter shrugs him off and goes to bed because he still wants to think he's better than everyone. The next day, Peter's class, including Harry, MJ, Flash, and Gwen, go to the Oscorp Science Center because of their outstanding performance in science, mostly thanks to Peter and Gwen. Excuse me. Man, my throat's acting up today. So Norman Osborn gives a tour. I'm sorry, my cat's attacking me. As Norman Osborn gives the tour, Peter pauses at an exhibit dedicated to his father, Richard Parker, and his research into genetic modification, specifically in spiders. Gwen, as an intern at Oscorp, informs Peter of the expansion of the research. And as he's taking the pictures, a spider descends from the ceiling and bites him. Harry drags him back to the group, and the tour continues past Oscorp's research into... Stop attacking me! For the love of goodness. Into clean energy. Max Dillon, this is the part I'm like shakiest on, is the clean energy, and then Max. Max Dillon introduces his research, but Osborn cuts him off and says that it's becoming more expensive than he would like. And then he may just end up cutting the project because it's Osborn. He doesn't care about good, he only cares about the money. Peter goes home, passes out on his bed, and he wakes up the next morning with the typical Spider-Man power set. Perfect vision, the ability to stick to walls, precognition or spider sense, and super strength. It's important to note in this that he is still scrawny. This is not a Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, where he just like he just wakes up and is buff. No, he gets buff. This is like the comics, I think, where he gets buff from the exercise from being Spider-Man. So he's still the scrawny nerd kid. And this part I stole, but I'll get to that when I get to my idea is stolen from. You notice there's a small hole in his wrist that's causing him a little bit of pain. I mean, if a hole appeared in your wrist. When he presses near it, a small spinneret pokes out and fires a little bit of webbing. Here's the important note here. My idea is based on James Cameron's Spider-Man film idea. If you haven't heard of it, there's a great video by PSM. I'll link it in the description if I can dig it out. That goes through the whole film. And so in the film, when you press the middle, so that's what happens is he has a spinneret just in his wrist. And you can try this out at home. If you just like take your hand and you like press your middle and ring fingers into your hand, you can feel like a little bit of bone tension, like right there, muscle tension or whatever. That's what I'm thinking would trigger the web shot. Because in Tobey Maguire, he's just kind of like finds out, oh yeah, it's by doing this. And then Tom and Andrew have web shooters. And like most other iterations have web shooters. I'm a fan of the organic webbing personally. It's a personal preference above anything. Yes, so that's how the webs work. Next page. Peter gets into a fight with Flash at school and absolutely tears him a new one. This happens. But he's scolded by the principal and later Uncle Ben, but we'll get to that. Harry congratulates him. Gwen warns him not to do it again, but calls back how no action should be taken. After school, Peter tests out his powers by parkouring across the city. If you need a visual, imagine Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, just like swinging from buildings and stuff, parkouring across. He practices his web shots in a parking garage and returns home late at night to be scolded by Uncle Ben for getting into a fight. Peter defends himself and storms out with Ben following after him, much like in The Amazing Spider-Man. Peter lets a robber go free, who later shoots Uncle Ben, leaving him to die. Peter comforts Ben as he dies, and comforts May that same night. So this whole Ben death scene is more or less similar to The Amazing Spider-Man. I wanted to have the wrestler suit, but with this, I just didn't feel like it fit. And I'm one of the rare people who love the TASM movies, so that was just my idea that I stole. The police report comes through. Peter knows the sketch and what he remembered from that night, and he begins hunting for the man who killed Uncle Ben. He goes through his first altercation and is told he needs a mask because they see his face. Again, The Amazing Spider-Man. I need to just start citing these. And from there, he decides to make his homemade suit. I did draw out all the concepts for the suits. I won't bother showing them here. I actually probably will, like, edit them in. But it looks a lot similar to the Tobey Maguire wrestler suit. As I call it, the human spider suit. From there, so he creates his homemade suit, and then he finds Dennis Carradine, the man who killed Ben, if you don't know his name. Peter beats him near death, but stops short because he remembers Ben's great power, great responsibility speech. I'm thinking it's like an echo in the back of his mind that, like, he echoes, with great power comes great responsibility. And Peter's like, no. So then Peter lets him up, leaves him for the police, and decides to redesign the suit. Get a little more flair into it. And then he designs the classic suit, which is, it looks like your standard Spider-Man suit. If you just Google classic suit, you'll find what I'm talking about. And he unveils it. So that's kind of going to be like a little bit of a montage, like sewing the suit. And he unveils it. I have a note here. And he unveils it like in Marvel's Spider-Man with a quick crime stop. So I'm imagining like swing through the city, just like showing quick shots. Another reference for that would be The Amazing Spider-Man. So as Peter celebrates his transition to heroics, Max's project is getting shut down at Oscorp. A distressed Max Dillon goes to inspect his research when he receives a high voltage shock, stunning him. Max stumbles into a vat of bio-enhanced electric eels and his body begins to distort. Now, if you've watched Spider-Man movies, you'll know this is his origin story from The Amazing Spider-Man. And the reason I went with The Amazing Spider-Man one is because his origin in the comics is, believe it or not, much dumber. This is going to be a little side rant, but in the comics, what happens is Max is an electrical worker, and he is out fixing a power line, and he gets struck by lightning. Okay, he gets struck by lightning, and like an idiot, grabs the power line, so he has two different currents of electricity flowing into him, and they like cancel each other out and activate his mutant gene, I think, and that gives him the power to control electricity. Now, falling into a vat of eels doesn't sound as dumb, I think. But I specifically know bio-enhanced. They need to be biologically enhanced. I don't know how you'll do that in a movie. Probably just like a little sign on the thingy. Just says, bio-enhanced eels. Do not touch. High voltage. So it's at this point, so as he's getting shocked, We cut away to Peter's science class learning about bioelectricity because we're funny. And the power begins to fluctuate in the school. Peter thinks nothing of it and begins to talk to Harry. The two encourage each other to ask out the dream girls, but Harry turns him down as MJ is presently dating Flash Thompson, which is going to be shown after the fight. Peter asks Gwen out after class, and she agrees to dinner because plot armor. Also, Peter and Gwen just actually have a connection. Flash tries to bully Peter again after he asks out a fellow nerd. MJ breaks up with him because he's just a giant jerk. I refuse to swear, so I don't know how much of the mass movement you can see. As Oscorp fumbles around to cover up the incident with Max and Spider-Man floods the media, Peter sees an opportunity to put his photographic talents to good use when the Daily Bugle puts out an ad for a photographer. Peter shows J. Jonah Jameson as pictures of Spider-Man, and JJ uses his traditional JJ charm of screaming. Because it's J. Jonah Jameson. What else is he gonna do? Talk nicely at you? Ha, you don't know Jameson. Fast forward a couple weeks, Max wakes up in Oscorp's basement. I chose a couple weeks because I don't know. Frankly, I just put a couple weeks because I need a time skip. Max wakes up in Oscorp's basement, strapped down in a rubber suit. He feels an energy coursing through him, but he's about to try something. But just as he's about to try something, Norman cuts him off and announces what's going on with him. So as Osborn's talking, Max is going to channel his electrical energy into an EMP, or an electromagnetic pulse. Basically, just a giant surge of electricity coming out of him, which destroys the lab. Max runs out of the lab, escapes Oscorp, and he goes to a nearby bodega to get some food because he's been asleep for a while. He needs his nutrients. And while there, he learns he can siphon power from electrical devices, powering himself further. I think this is how it works in the comics. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. Comment section, please. But what I think happens in the comics is if he doesn't have enough electrical power, he just can't use his electrical powers. So this is going to be his major plot point. This isn't Electro from 2002 trying to turn into pure energy. This is just trying to become the Omega weapon. I'm pretty sure that's what happens in Spider-Man the Animated Series. I should know, I watched that a couple months ago, but I don't remember. Just jump straight into the next paragraph with cut to Peter and Gwen being a happy couple. And they encourage Harry to ask out MJ, and believe it or not, she says yes. So Peter and Gwen decide to go out that night, and Max happens to walk past the restaurant and shut off the power. Peter suspects this is more than just a small power outage, and he suits up. He goes out back and he mistakes Max as a villain, and Max retaliates as one does when they're suspected to be a villain. If you are out and someone said, "Hey, that guy looks malicious, I'm gonna go punch him in the face," you're gonna fight back, most likely. And as he retaliates, he reveals his green and yellow suit, and this is because he couldn't figure out how to take off the rubber suit, and if he did, it would just not be great for anyone. The rubber suit is what's helping him contain his energy, kind of. So my thought is he had the rubber suit and then he just spray painted it or something. After the altercation, Max Max commits to a life of crime and steals one of Peter's quippy names for him, Electro. Gwen fixes the power in the restaurant as Peter slips back inside. Gwen asks him where he went, and Peter, being Peter, just doesn't tell her. Because he's Peter. Peter provides his pictures of the Bugle, and JJ yells him out as per usual. As Peter leaves, Electro sneaks in to steal the safe from JJ's office. Again, this happens in the comics. JJ spots the Electric Man and tries to call for help, but Electro shorts out the phones. Electro tells him to tell the story and how he wants to bring down Oscorp for what they did to him, because he blames Oscorp. And then JJ runs the piece on Oscorp, and Harry gets mad at Peter for taking the pictures and possibly encouraging the angry newsman. And because it's Harry, he has like anger issues or something, doesn't listen. He tends to jump to conclusions because Osborn. Peter reads the piece and he realizes how Electro gets his powers. And he realizes he needs to shut down the power plant to weaken him, because that's his goal, is he wants to get to the power plant, siphon as much electrical power as possible, and then become an ultimate weapon. So Peter in costume swings to Gwen Stacy and asks for her help, because, you know, always got to recruit your girlfriend for help. This comes from a man who's never had a girlfriend in his life, but hey. She asks why she should help. Goodness gracious me. Why she should help him. And Peter tells her that his aunt would be very upset. Or her boyfriend, whichever seems better. Probably not boyfriend. He's gonna say something and then take off his mask. And then she's gonna be like, oh, hi, Peter. She agrees to help because she knows the specs of the Oscorp power plant and how to shut it down. So Peter with Gwen in tow swings to the power plant and they see Electro siphoning power. And Peter distracts Electro while Gwen shuts it down. And as Spider-Man elegantly dodges Electro's blast, the Electric Man drains himself of power and is unable to restore it. Peter, now able to use his webbing, because I imagine in the previous fight, or I'm planning on having more fights, hopefully. I don't pan out the runtime. Because it's the spinneret, if he like shoots a web at Electro and he electrifies it, like in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, instead of shorting out the web shooter, it's gonna go in his body and shock him. That ain't gonna be pretty. So once Electro is depowered, he's able to use his webs. Peter, now able to use his webbing, shuts down Electro. Funny pun. And Captain George Stacy, who probably appears earlier in this movie, probably from A Date with Gwen or some other Spidey activity, because I'm not a movie director. I might turn this into like a book or something, but I don't have the filmmaking expertise to do this. Maybe in a couple of years I post my my skits that I did this summer, and you'll see how not great of a filmmaker I am. Also, I have a very small cast of people who would be willing to star in a movie. Maybe I can sell the film rights. All I know is this is better than most of the Sony movies, so most of the Sony Spider-Man universe movies. It's gonna be better than Kraven, let's be honest. Captain George Stacy commends Spider-Man, but questions why his daughter was involved. Peter just says something probably along the lines of, I needed someone who knows the specs, and she's frankly the best one for the job. And at this point, Peter enters his closing monologue, which starts the same way as the opening. You know, back then I was a different man. Peter talks about how he's changed for the better, and that there will always be people to help, love, and support you. Because the greatest piece of Spider-Man is the encouragement monologues from like the Tobey Maguire films and Into the Spider-Verse. I love that Into the Spider-Verse closing speech. He closes with, this is just a workshop quote. Tweak it. It might get tweaked later. He closes with great power comes great responsibility. My uncle taught me that, and it's something I hold on to every day. And then probably has a final quote about being Spider-Man. And then he swings into the camera. Maybe slow-mo, I don't know. I do make a point to note here that there is no mid/post-credits film for the scene for this film, because they are going to be here, and they'll be somewhere. Okay, yeah. This has been a hot minute. I'm gonna upload each of these as a separate video because it seems better. Also, I need to drink some water. Thank you for watching. If you have any ideas about what I can do for the future of these, please let me know in the comments. I would be very grateful. Thank you. And yeah, so see you on the flip side. Why would I think that's funny?